Order. I call the honourable member for Herbert.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. This year's budget was a cracker for Australia and for North Queensland. When Treasurer Joe Hockey delivered his speech, I knew instantly what he was trying to achieve: jobs, opportunity and growth, essential to what this government wants to provide. It also fits the narrative of living within your means and doing more with less. We no longer have the rivers of gold from the mining booms, and we must adjust. He recognised that we have real issues surrounding our budget sustainability into the future and addresses them with a carefully crafted plan which backs our strengths. We must stretch our tax dollar as far as we can and get as many uses out of it as possible. We must also look at how business is conducted in this country and work with them as much as possible. Government does not create wealth, but it does supply the infrastructure through which facilitates commerce. In particular, we need to look at the government tender process across all levels of government, which better reflects the nature of our regions and the nature of our business. We need government funds to wash through our economies more than once. Government tenders have become massively complex. My question, and the question that's being asked of me by my business sector, is: does this tender process produce better results? It's frustrating when, after forcing compliance with all these items, there is then a 100% weighting on price, making the rest of the tender document worthless, other than to disqualify people from participating, which is the bugbear of my city's businesses. It is my strong belief that the tender process has become convoluted and confused over a long period of time. Instead of the core principles of respect for the taxpayer's dollar and value for money, we seem to have entered a world where centralised decision and conflict resolution processes have outweighed the core tenets of the tender. When you end up with roads for local councils costed at $9 million, end up costing the state government, using their own tender mechanism, $27 million, with not 1 cent flushing through the local regional economy, it is time to have a fair think and think about what we're trying to do here. Are we trying to get the best value from our taxpayer dollar? Are we trying to facilitate commerce on a local, state and national level? Or are we allowing someone in a building in a capital city somewhere in Australia to ensure that his or her job is easier at the expense of the first two questions I posed? We all have heard stories about the subcontractor who has failed in his bid to secure a part of a tender, who has then been approached to do the work at more than his original price. These stories abound. We have to do better. It does not affect the big tenders. It does not just affect the big tenders for the major jobs. It is the centralisation of decisions which can causes heads to be scratched. When a gearbox has to be loaded, it has to be wrapped in plastic and put on transport and sent from Townsville to the New South Wales-Victorian border to be repaired, you shake your head. When you have locals who can supply the service quicker, better, locally, and do not qualify for the work, you know you have a problem. When you have a government fact sheet that shows that the trip to Victoria is more efficient, you know you're in trouble. What we, as a government and supplier of funds, must do is simplify the process to allow the local contractors to have a chop at the part of the tender. Please, oh please, do not go down the line. The centralisation of supply and existing tender processes reducing paperwork. There are entire floors of major businesses now fitted out with the tender officers whose job it is to ensure that the minutiae of their bid is compliant to the tender document. We have small businesses which can do the work, which will provide value for money and extend the life of our taxpayer dollar. We owe it to them and all taxpayers to ensure that we are doing our best to maximise value. The nature of the builder has also changed. It used to be that the builder had tools and was on the job, and today the builder or lead contractor is more of a project manager and does not carry a great deal of risk. All the risk is carried by the subcontractor, through my eyes anyway. I'm pleased to hear that we are moving on unfair contracts with the Small Business Ombudsman and the nature of government tenders and the exposure of the subcontractors' experience. It is vitally important that the federal government plays a major role in supplying confidence to the business community. And I'm proud to stand next to my Treasurer and say, we know there is always more to do, but we're heading in the right direction and supporting my community. I thank the House.
Order. It being 9 p.m.